So I think writing is a very, very important form of self expression for me. I think we all have a lot of thoughts, we have a lot of things going on internally, and there needs to be a healthy outlet to kind of just, let things out, let those thoughts get processed, and kind of just put some sanity into all of the jumbled things that happen here in my brain. So I look at writing as a way to express myself, to kind of put some sense into my thoughts. And usually when you start writing it, things also start to become very real. Things also start to get very it just takes a much better shape. You actually can start to see that, okay, this thought makes a lot of sense, or this thought is absolutely not making any sense whatsoever. So I think I resort to writing, whether it's just personal writing, just like notes, or it could be as simple as a simple note on my phone, or a draft on an email, or actually putting an article out there, or actually like doing something like in a much bigger scale. But I think eventually I just look at it as an outlet for like my brain to just take that breather. And I still think I'm discovering myself as a writer, calling myself a writer, actually trying to figure out what is my strength, what is the kind of writing I actually enjoy, where do I struggle, where do I do well, what is the kind of feedback I'm receiving, how can I make myself better, how do I not lose touch, because again, writing requires practice, writing requires dedication and consistency. So how can I kind of like do that? So I think it's just a mix of a lot of things, where I'm trying to discover who I am as like a as someone who can confidently call herself a writer. I think I'm somewhat there, but not entirely. But I do hope that I'm able to uh, you know get the satisfaction out of knowing that this is exactly what I'm doing. And but at the same time, not lose that um uh, that spark to constantly try to figure where I fit in. So in the process of trying to figure that out, I think I end up trying newer things, and even if I fail, it's okay. I go in with that mindset of like forgiving myself. It's okay if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I think that has helped me kind of try different things. So I'm hoping that even if I find my comfort zone, I continue to experiment and try new things.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Closet Writer Chronicles. I'm your host Sangeeta, aka the Moody Marshmallow. You just heard our guest for today, Shasvathi Siva. Shasvathi is a writer, activist, and a marketing professional. She has previously worked with agencies like Media to Win, Go Zoop, and 22 Feet Tribal Worldwide. She has also been an entrepreneur with her vegan venture, Kavvati. Shasvathi is currently writing her first book, soon to be published by Penguin Random House India. Tune in to hear about her journey and take on marketing and advertising, entrepreneurship, and normalizing the conversation around divorce. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Closet Writer Chronicles. This week I have with me Shasvathi Siva. Hi Shasvathi, it's so good to have you on the show.
Hey Sangeeta, thank you so much for inviting me, and really looking forward to chatting with you and just like seeing what we have to share with each other. Super excited. Thank you so much. I'm really, really happy to be here with you.
The pleasure is all mine, and even I'm excited for today's chat. So, on that note, the first thing I want to ask you is what is your earliest memory of being creative, and when did you really start writing?
See, I think creative is a very free flowing, a very liquid thing. It's not something where I have a particular memory of being creative. And honestly, I also do question creativity a lot, because what is good and what is bad. There is always this question of like, is it even creative, or has somebody already done it before? So I think I actually, I think a lot about the word creativity. And, I try to make sense of it, but I don't think it's as straightforward as saying that, oh, this is a creative idea. Yeah, it might be a great idea, but how do we know someone's not thought of it already? Then does it make it creative or not? It goes into a very gray area of like, what is creative at the end of it? But if I have to give you a very straightforward answer, um, I think college brought out a lot of the interest in creativity. So let me put it that way. Is I did mass media in Wilson College in Bombay, and we were taught to be creative. We were actually told to be creative. And when you see, and when I was really surrounded by extremely talented classmates who really, we were all learning to kind of like reinvent the wheel, think outside the box, all of these things that are very common terms today. This was over like a decade ago, and it was very exciting, to be a part of that. So I think if I have to put creative in like at a portion in my life where it actually like took off, it would be college for sure, because we had a lot of projects going on at that point of time, and it was very very related to advertising, media, marketing, all of it. So I think it took shape almost at a time in college. So yeah, I mean that's how I would look at the word creative, or what I think of when I think of like creativity. It's not a very straightforward template for me that where I think I would just fit in. Yeah, it's a struggle on most days to understand the nuances of creativity.
But then when did you really start, pick up the pen and, give writing a shot? Like, what was the first thing you ever wrote?
The first thing I wrote was actually a concert for a review for a music concert. Yeah,
Oh,
this is back
okay.
in Chennai where I was studying, and we had something called music scholarships, and I was a scholarship holder. And to actually kind of once you're a scholarship holder, you have to attend during the season of music season in December, the Margazhi month. Um, you are expected to go to concerts, and you're supposed to review them. So it not only tests your writing abilities or your ability to give an unbiased opinion, but it also teaches you to understand a little more nuances of music. Like if you're writing about something, then are you understanding the topic before you actually get into it? So I think, uh, and this is from my memory. I don't know if I wrote something before that, but um, I remember the review I wrote. It was a concert that I really enjoyed listening to actually. I remember I came back home and I started writing that review that night. I didn't wait
Hmm.
because I wanted it to be fresh in my head, and then I wrote it, and then I saw it somewhere on some paper or somewhere wherever it was published. I don't remember the name of it, but it felt great to see my name over there, and it felt great that I was able to contribute something. And that's when I genuinely started feeling like, okay, can I express myself through words?
Hmm.
It was a very very nascent childish thought back then, but yeah, I mean I think that's what I remember as my first piece of writing.
Oh, that's really cool. I mean, it's much cooler than, well, not well. I don't want to compare, but basically it's different because I think for me the first thing I remember writing is basically my English exams in school. And I used to really have fun with, I think it was English too, where we'd have all the essays and stuff. And I used to somehow like enjoy writing those, even though it was an exam. Like it used to be like cathartic for me to do those. So that is like for me my earliest memory of actually writing, and kind of having fun with it in a way. And they'd give you like these really, I think, random topics sometimes, and you just be sitting there and weaving stories and words.
Yeah, I mean, now that you say it, yeah, I mean, English we did have, but I don't have any memory of enjoying it as much. Also, because I think when you put in the pressure of exam and school and all of that, it kind of like it really sucks the joy out of it. So I think I felt that a lot throughout schooling. I hated exams. I hated wanting to do it. So I don't think I thought of it as a creative exercise. So now that you say it and I think back, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I considered it to be like a fun activity because it really wasn't to me. That's why, like, the example that came to my mind also was something I did out of passion and not really something I was under compulsion to do. So I think that's where the difference is. And that's also when, you can be truly creative, is I think when that angle of passion comes in and not just someone forcing you and making you, write 300 words or something. So I think, yeah, for me, I think that's the difference from what you said.
Yeah. No, for sure. But having said that, I want to ask you, who are some of, the writers or even like artists who've sort of inspired you and influenced you, and just maybe pieces of work that have really stuck with you? Because I really think that for anyone, most people, I think while growing up, you all obviously come across certain pieces of content, be it like books or movies or anything that kind of do stay with you, and in some ways also sometimes influence your take on the way you do things creatively or even just your perspective. So who or what have those been for you?
Um, I mean, I grew up in a house where I think my parents read a lot. My mom's an English teacher. My dad's very interested in a lot of books. So I think I took to reading quite late. I still don't think I'm a great reader. I fall off that wagon pretty often. But I think one of the first influences that I had was thanks to my family was Calvin and Hobbes. It
Oh.
was, yeah. So I think I learned a lot from that, and it still boggles my mind that it's so relevant. I'm like, how did he do this? How can it be so relevant even today? You pick up any comic from that, you have an incident for today. After so many decades. So I think that was something that I enjoy reading, like as a side. It's always there,
Yeah.
it's like a light read, one of those things. um One book that really, it moved me to tears, and it's one of those things that really changed the game for me, was this book called Not Without My Daughter. It's
Okay.
actually a true incident. I think it's written by Mahmoody. um, and it's about a woman who gets married to this guy, and I think they move to one of these Middle East countries, and then how she has to escape back to America, because it's a very regressive place for her, and they go through a lot of struggles, and she literally crosses the borders illegally, and a lot of things. So I thought it was written with so much care and concern for her daughter, and the
Hmm.
things that she overcomes. And I think I was quite young when I read it, and I think it left a very, very big, um, imprint in my life, because I don't know, something about the writing really moved me, and something about the thing, the essence of how she kind of captured the story was so, it's so immersive. So
Hmm.
I think I also look for that when I'm the connect that you have with the characters in the book, and like how you feel about it. Like, on the flip side, something as popular as Harry Potter is something I never connected with. I just couldn't
Okay.
get the, yeah, I couldn't. I tried my best. I think I got through two, three books, whatever, and then I was just like, I'm not feeling it. I probably enjoyed the movie more. So I think it's a very picky thing for me, where I need to feel the connect, and I need to feel that kind of the emotion coming out of this thing. But in recent times, I think Fredrick Backman has been a big favorite. A Man Called Ove just moved me like so much, and so I think uh, I've been reading more of his work. So yeah, I mean, these are a couple that I think really makes a very big difference. Of course, I mean, like for most kids, Enid Blyton also had a very big, Enid Blyton, Sidney, Sheldon, all of these growing up. I had, there was this one series that I also recall very, very fondly. It was called Naughtiest Girl in the School
Oh,
by,
yeah.
yeah.
I
And
remember this series.
yeah, it was great.
It
I
was
just
fun.
loved that series. So that's something I I just remember a lot of things very, very this thing because I was like, what a rebel. I love her.
Yeah.
So it was that and Secret Seven, Famous Five. So these are things that you just by default read, and it kind of shaped you a little bit in terms of so many aspects of thinking. So yeah, I mean these are few of, I think,
Yeah.
influences.
Yeah, no, because I could really relate to because Enid Blyton was huge for me also in my childhood, and I think even like Roald Dahl,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, I love Roald Dahl. I think Matilda, obviously the Big Friendly Giant, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach. Like, there's a whole bunch of them which I loved reading. And also huge fan of the Tintin series, the Tintin comics. That was also something I really loved, and I still go back to.
I was a big fan. I mean, I shouldn't say it in past tense. I am a big fan
Yeah.
of Archie. A big
Ooh.
fan of Archie. I love the comics. Oh my god, it's so gripping. It's like I don't think I could ever watch it being converted into any sort of TV or film or anything
Yeah.
because it's just like no, it's
Yeah.
too precious. Like I need it to be in comic book form. But
Yeah.
yeah, great influences. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, even I think Tinkle. But it was so funny when you mentioned Harry Potter because I've never read the series growing up. So because I know everyone in school would like immediately get the new book when it was out, and I just never got the hype. There was another series I loved called Septimus Heap by Angie Sage, which was also like about a wizarding boy, but I kind of was drawn more to that, so I ended up reading that. But yeah, I think moving more into, your sort of professional side of things, you got into advertising and marketing. How did you kind of make that decision to, to get into this space?
It wasn't a very difficult decision because my grandfather was in this field, my dad was in this field. So I've grown up listening to a lot of advertising stories. I've visited my dad's agency a lot. My granddad had started the agency, which my dad kind of took over, which then later got merged with another bigger agency. So I used to think as a kid that, oh, it'll come to me, but that did not happen. But I think it kind of I wouldn't say I was very passionate in the sense that I always knew I'd get into advertising. No, it wasn't that. I thought mass media was an interesting route for me to take, for me to study, and then I was like, okay, let me figure where I can go from there. So the course was really beautifully designed where you dip your feet in multiple things. So there's everything from radio to filmmaking to writing to you name it, and it was there. So consumer research, branding, advertising, journalism. So there's a bit of everything in your first 2 years, and then in my final year, third year, you get to decide. You take either an advertising major or a journalism major, and then you finish it in that. So for me, by the time those 2 years were up, I was very certain that I wanted to be in advertising. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, journalism, I don't think is my kind of this thing. I'll do advertising. And I picked advertising, and yeah, big credit to my Professor Sudhakar Solomon Raj. He was very instrumental in bringing a lot of our interest and attention to something like advertising, and he helped us identify, okay, you're doing this well, this. So we had very interesting projects where we had a lot of groundwork. It wasn't just, while a lot of other colleges had PPTs and written documents and all that, we actually had to show real time change, that we were able to like put something together. So Wilson was actually a very different college in that sense. The same course was approached very differently from other colleges. So our projects took a completely different tone from a lot of other colleges. So we actually had to put together a campaign in my final year where we were a group of about five of us, and we had to take a social cause. And the very result of that project was that our professor would have to see it in the papers or in news. The presentation would happen much after that. So the campaign has to reach him
Okay.
through a medium. and not just us coming and saying this is the campaign we do or this is how we do it. No, we had to actually execute the campaign. And
Hmm.
we had put together a campaign called Chappal Maarungi, which I think was one of the um first kind of what do you say, exposures that I had to the advertising, or just putting together a campaign, right? um, for a college project, I think the campaign really took off. We were covered, I think till date, we are covered by almost 60-65 publications. Um,
Okay.
yeah, we had a mention in the New York Times. It went up to
Wow.
like that. And then we've done like video shoots, we've done photo shoots, we've been invited to panel discussions. We were actually able to you know be in a lot of spaces, and we did not even know the magnitude of what we had done at that point of time. And so I think that was a lot of validation, that at that like a final year of college, we were actually getting a lot more exposure, lot more understanding of like, oh wow, okay, you can actually drive impact also through your ideas. You can actually do something that actually makes a difference, and you're not just selling tomatoes and milk. You can actually do like a lot more than that. So I think that was a very, very wonderful introduction for me into advertising. So I was just pretty sure that I wanted to get into the creative field. And i I wasn't confident to call myself a writer then, but I did apply for copywriting jobs because it's just a it's just a confidence thing, nothing else. It takes a while before you can have like you can build like a body of work. And then this thing, I still get jitters calling myself a writer. So I don't think it kind of ever goes, and I don't ever want to get so comfortable where I'm feeling confident about it. I'm like, okay, as long as I'm feeling like, okay, I'm feeling a little weird about it, I feel like maybe that's the push I need to constantly like try to do better. So that's definitely one big thing for me. Yeah.
No, no, for sure. Because, it's so cool that you spoke about your campaign, Chappal Maarungi. Can I ask what exactly the campaign was about?
Sorry, my bad. I should have mentioned that. So we took eve teasing as the subject, and Chappal Manungi is basically, I'll slipper you, was basically we were empowering women to say that don't take it, don't keep quiet,
Mm,
turn around and show the slipper. So Chappal Manungi was more of a figurative metaphor. It's not just that you every time you have to pull your slipper out, but it was more to say raise your voice. So even if you scream saying chappal marungi, that itself is like a thing. So and I think uh, the teammates that I did this with often tell the story about me. It was that I was a very meek person, when I had moved to this Bombay, and I wouldn't really like raise my voice for a lot of things, very unlike what I am today. But I think after this campaign, I remember we were walking in Kolaba, and there was this guy who came and he kind of like brushed himself on me, like really closely, really creepy way. And I think that was one of the first times I turned around and I screamed. I said, Chappal Marungi. And then like there was just like silence first, and then all of these guys were looking at me and they were like, wow, like this is real effect of what we are doing, because you are feeling brave enough to actually tell that guy to like get the hell out of there. So
yeah.
it was very tangible change that we were also like kind of seeing. So I think that became a cause also that became very close to us. And unfortunately, we did try to continue the campaign for a couple of years after college as well, because again, because the impact it had reached so far and wide, we were continuously getting like journalists reaching out to us. We actually won an award also in Delhi, for the social cause. So it kind of it was moving at a momentum. And we had gone out of college to our respective jobs, so it got a little difficult to coordinate it and do things together. So eventually we had to close the curtains. But it was good, it was great while it ran. It was a lot of um, confidence that it gave us. And I will speak very, very proudly of Chappal Marungi all my life. No, even if it was just a college project, no, it was far more than it for us.
No, and you should. I think that's so cool to be able to actually, come up with something that can really create some form of tangible change. Because when you're talking about it, I was actually remembering this conversation earlier on the podcast this season. We had Sumanto Chattopadhyay, who's worked with Ogilvy and 82.5 Communications. And he spoke about an advertisement that was really special to him, which he worked on, was for World Adoption Day. And it was like this poster they had made with a child holding like an adult, sort of saying that adoption can give you far more than having a child of your own. There's a lot more you're getting out of it. And he said how a couple of years later someone reached out to him and said they saw the ad and adopted a kid because of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
real. That gives you like a sense of fulfillment that I don't think a lot of other things could get you. Yeah, beautiful.
yeah, so it's just amazing to see the sort of impact sometimes, I think marketing, advertising, just content and like pieces like this can really create. And I think that's really cool. And a lot of times people don't talk about it as much, and which is why we're having these conversations. But speaking about copywriting, I think now especially it's become an extremely sought after skill. I think there is a lot more emphasis on being able to write good content regardless of whichever field you might be in, because that is something now everyone is kind of talking about and pushing out. But having said that, what do you think people still don't understand about copywriting and I guess creating content for, like, say, a brand or like for a specific field? And so that's one. And also, what are some misconceptions you've just seen about people having about copywriting?
I've worked in a couple of agencies and then I ran my own business, and then now I'm no longer in an agency. I work in marketing. Um I think one of the biggest misconceptions and something that people get very wrong about, I'm not going to just
Yeah.
narrow it down to copywriting. I'm going to say content
Yeah,
in
sure.
general. Copywriting becomes a part of content.
Yeah.
Is that people think it's just English. It's easy.
Okay.
Uh, just because, see, we all write on some level. Somebody is just writing a WhatsApp message or somebody is writing emails. You have to write. Writing is a very inherent part of any job. So because people can draft emails or because they can actually communicate through sentences, it's like, oh, this is just English, right? What's the big deal? But there's a reason it's a job, and there's a reason that it has its own department, and people actually studying and people actually working for years towards honing their art. But it's just not easy as that. You just can't say that copywriting is like, oh, it's just English, it's just putting a sentence together. But there's so much that actually goes behind putting any sentence together. And I think over the last few years I've really grown to understand and enjoy data, and how much of an effect data has on writing, and how much of it you can use to kind of get better sentences out, just get better quality content out, is understanding how data works, understanding exactly, going deep into what the topic you're talking about. So I just think that it's very easily rubbished to be one of the easiest jobs, but I actually don't think it's easy at all, because if you go to a website, the first thing you see is content. If you come to social media, what you see is content. Content is all around. There is no world without content. So if you see any video, it's content. If you listen to this podcast, it's content. So it's not just to say that, oh, it's just English thrown together. It's not. If it was that easy, then everybody would be a copywriter, right? Or
Yeah.
everybody would be a content creator. But why are we not? That's something to think about.
No, for sure. Because, like, I completely agree. Because I remember for two jobs I had previously, there was a bit of copywriting involved, and that's when I really like sort of learned a little bit about it, and I was like, oh my god, this is really hard. I have so much more respect for people who do this now, because now I get it. But yeah, I would recommend. I actually think everyone should at least once try doing copywriting to really understand how difficult it is, because it really opens up your eyes to, oh my god, there's so much that goes behind this. Because I feel like a lot of times people really won't get it until they do it themselves, because it's very easy to say that, oh, it's just this, but I'm like, no, it's not just this. There's a lot that goes behind putting out a piece of content out there for something.
Yeah.
So
I
honestly,
think one of the things that my professor Sudhakar sir, I will just refer to him a lot because he's a very, very big influence in my life. He would always say, never take the first two, three things that you write ever. Like, I think that's something I kind of even I would continue to struggle with, because what happens is the first couple of things you write is where you get emotionally attached.
yeah.
So he often talks about you have to detach yourself from your writing. You have to detach yourself from what you have actually put down, because the first few thoughts are common thoughts. These are probably things that people have already done. It's a high possibility. It's not that it is, but it's just a high possibility. So he would just say that, go to your 20th, 25th line, and you'll probably hit jackpot over there, because never take the first few lines. Of course, 2025 is a bit of an exaggeration, but it just makes a lot of sense, and I think he was absolutely right in kind of trying to train us for that, because your first few ideas, your first few lines, your first few whatever it is going to be more superficial and more what do you say, emotion driven than actually logic or you know data.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, and that's very true. I think that happens a lot, right? You kind of create something and you get so attached. And then even with writing, I think just generally when you write a first draft of something and then you have to go back and edit it, and sometimes you don't want to take out pieces because you're so invested in what you have
Yes,
written.
yes.
So I think this is like for an editor also to deal with, that no, this is not working. Please, like, cut this out. So it's very relatable in that sense. But having said that, because now there's this whole new conversation, of course, around AI, right? And content, and with the whole chat GPT phenomenon that's happening right now. And I know, I think you recently posted, I believe it was on LinkedIn, about, it's not AI that's going to replace creative people. It's people who use AI who, will replace creatives. So I just want to know what your take is on this whole AI thing with, content creation.
uh Firstly, I think the disclaimer is that I don't think I have done enough research to actually understand AI completely. So I think I will just probably just give you a superficial take of mine, and it's not like a thoroughly researched expert opinion on things. Absolutely not. But ChatGPT is something I have been experimenting with quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, and I've been enjoying my conversations with ChatGPT. um, and I do look at it as a very helpful tool for a lot of things. Of course, it's really important to remember that you shouldn't just copy paste. That's not what ChatGPT is even meant for. Which I'm seeing a lot of posts, etc., on LinkedIn and Twitter, which are they're actually making the rounds where people have just verbatim copied from ChatGPT. Instead, I think ChatGPT is really helpful for collating information. So, say for example, you're writing about a topic, it's an easy way to do research on that topic. It's an easy way to understand more things about the topic. Use that information and try to, write around it. Instead, not ask ChatGPT to write it for you and then you just kind of take it. Because ChatGPT is also a language tool. ChatGPT does not protect you from any sort of plagiarism. So you're really naive if you think you can just pick it up off ChatGPT and think that wow, I've done something original. Like, that's not how it works. ChatGPT cannot differentiate between something published on the internet and this thing. It's just collating information from across resources. So I think that's really important. But I found it to be really helpful in terms of how it just brings information together and how useful it can be to actually, just propel your work forward in terms of understanding better about topics. But yeah, ChatGPT can never be copy paste what the work that you want to do. No, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, because I know there's suddenly been a lot of, chatter about this that, oh, will AI now replace, content creators and writers and copywriters? And it was like, oh, okay, what is going on here? So I was just curious to know, like, what is, what do people say who are genuinely, working in the marketing and advertising space, their take on it? But do you think like organizations would take to ChatGPT in general?
I think they should also, because it's a very smart tool. Like, why not? But you need to, I don't think a tool like ChatGPT, at least for now, can replace a writer, because while ChatGPT might have a lot of IQ, it might not be able to do a lot of like active problem solving or putting a little more like emotion, the human element. I hope that it still remains with like a human who can do it. I mean, you never know, right? It could easily take over that. It's. I don't think it's like a future that's very far where AI will also start completely writing like a human. Um, so I think that it's that human touch that I think we are holding on to say that okay, you need a human to do this. But I think it's more collaboration and not competition. So you need to
Hmm.
kind of figure out how can this make my work better, as opposed to saying, like putting up a brick wall in the middle saying, oh, are you going to replace me? I'm never going to use you. It's not that. How can you use it to your advantage? And I'm still learning that. I still don't think I have it figured out for ChatGPT. And I mean, we've all discovered it pretty. It's a hot topic right now, and we're all in the process of discovering more of it. So I think I'm just going to go with the flow and see where it kind of takes me. But it's definitely exciting to see new things come up in the market for sure. Yeah, that's definitely exciting.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I mean, I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of get your take on this, since like this really is like it's just been spoken about so much right now. So I was just curious to understand, what your perspective might be. But I also want to talk to you about Kavavati, which is a brand you started, which is plant-based vegan cheeses and almost plant-based like dairy products in a way, if I can term it that. uh, but what was your journey like with it? Because I know you unfortunately had to also suspend operations during the pandemic. But what has your entrepreneurial journey been like with Kawati, and what have some of your biggest learnings been from it?
So many. I think Kauti was started from also a very marketing standpoint, to say that I wanted to kind of try and change the way people look at plant-based products or vegan products, because vegan has it's one of the most debated arguments, internet fights, and generally there's just a very different misconception about being vegan, about vegans, about food, and everything's just, oh, vegan is just expensive, vegan is just not, it's not healthy, vegans have a superiority complex. These things are things I've heard for a very long time, and I've been vegan for about 11 years now. So it's a very long time, and I'm fully, it's just there's no going back from this lifestyle for me at this point of time. So when I started Kavati, it was more for me to make it a more educational but fun educational, where I really wanted to try and undo a lot of these miscommunications, undo a lot of these misconceptions that people had in their minds, to say that no, vegan is just saying reduce as much animal cruelty as you can. And even within my friend circles, etc., I would realize that a lot of people, maybe if they had alternatives, they would actually consider making at least some change. You don't have to make an entire shift, but can you at least try something? Instead of drinking animal milk, can you try like a soy milk or a coconut milk once? Can you do like a soy based curd or a peanut based curd at one thing? So even small switches make a big difference, right? It's not, there are no, it's like there are no perfectionists. Everybody is an imperfectionist something. So I wanted to move towards that. I wanted to say, okay, can I replace cheese in your house on a few days? So it's like if you are eating cheese, say thrice a week, 4 times a week, out of that, can kawati be part of your diet twice? For me, kawati was always a marketing standpoint. So the product was, what do you say, just complementing that for me. So initially, kawati was a blog, and that was my plan. And then,
Okay.
yeah, she was just a blog, and I was just blogging my everyday food, and if I would go out somewhere, etc., etc. Then it became a little more. Long story short, I think I was able to reach out. I had about 6,000, 6,000 and something customers before I had to, like, before the pandemic caused a lot of havoc. Learnings, I would say, are so many. Being an entrepreneur is not easy at all. It's a very isolating, it's a very lonely journey, it's a very difficult journey. Um, your mental strength is everything, more than the this thing, and also physical strength, because if you end up doing a lot of work, and particularly if you are in a product category and you're not digital, then you end up doing a lot more physical activity. So for me, I also had the physical activity of making batches and batches and batches of cheese. So I would have easily made upwards of 2,000, 3,000 kilos of cheese. So it's just a lot. I would have a lot of pain in my back, in my hands, because it's not just making the cheese, and it's also like packaging it, and it's also putting it in, the carton boxes, labeling it, making sure that, then booking the logistics. So it's a very long process. So mentally and physically, you have to be very, very ready for it. And then I think finance is a very big part of an entrepreneurial journey. So I really hope that many more people getting into entrepreneurship really think about it before they get into it. um yeah, I think that was one of my biggest lessons, where you have to compromise a lot. I didn't take any holidays for quite a while. I was saving every penny, I was putting it back into the business. I wasn't like, I wasn't spending it on other things, because constantly I would be like, okay, let me put it back, let me put it back. um so you need to kind of be very strong for that, because after a point, you need to realize that your entire lifestyle will change. The way it seeps into your personal life as well. It becomes your identity at this point of time, where your company and your entrepreneurship becomes everything. So it takes a few years to, even before you even start thinking of like a decent work life balance, and like, okay, how do I go forward, how do I scale it up from here, how do I hire more people, a lot of those things. So I think it can be a very isolating journey. Reality is not as pretty sometimes, and I have to accept that there are places where I have failed, and I will probably continue to fail. uh so yeah, it wasn't easy in any way to close, or pause Kavati. I continue to say pause, because like I said, it becomes such a big part of you. Kavati is still a very big part of me. So I don't think I can ever completely shut the door on Kavati and say, oh, I'll never do it again. No, I don't say that, because I want to keep that open. If at all I ever get an opportunity, I think I've built a lot of credibility through my brand. I think on the other side of the difficulties, there's also so much good that happened. A lot of it actually reached a few celebrities without me reaching out to them. It I went to so many stalls. I was actually able to get really good feedback. I had a big base of non-vegans who were my main customers. I had 65% non-vegan customers, um, about 20-25% transitioning, and very few vegans. So the validation was high in terms of like, okay, vegans are not looking for this product as much because I think vegans have figured out their life around cheese. But it is the people who are interested in alternatives, people who are looking to transition, people who are looking to find new products and introduce new products. That's the market I need to kind of like tap into. So my entire communication, the way I'd market it, the way I'll place it, and I try to bring the pricing point as low as possible to my dairy counterparts. So I think that was appealing to people. I got some really nice feedback. I was able to introduce up to I think 8 flavors. So um, yeah, and each of those flavors went through like a full testing phase, and then the feedback phase, and trying to get the flavor balance correct, trying to get palate. And I would always take feedback from, like, I remember my tasting sessions when I would introduce a couple of new flavors is I would have a couple of vegans, I'll have a couple of anti-vegans, I'll have a couple of like transitioning vegans. I'll get all of these people together because that's when you get honest feedback, because vegans are probably always going to tell you, yeah, this is great. It is the real target audience that I had were transitioning vegans, were people who are not open to it. So my feedback sessions would also be about that, and then I work on bettering the flavor from then. And I don't come from a chef background. I haven't studied how to make things. I pretty much just spent days and nights in the kitchen trying to hash it out. Um, I saw a lot of videos to understand the science behind vegan cheese, and what actually goes, what makes it uh, what it is. How do you make it taste like it? And then I had to develop my own recipe. So in a way, I really learned that I can be resilient if I want to. If I really want to crack it, I know that I can put my head to it and get it done. uh, it's also very difficult. It's not easy. So yeah, I mean, it's always an up and down journey when I think of my entrepreneurial days.
But no, more power to you. I mean, obviously you had the drive, the motivation, and also I think just the sort of guts to go after something you really wanted, and you gave it your shot and you tried. And I think anyone who's trying to do something is already doing so much more than someone who isn't, right? So I think it's really cool, and more power to you. And I hope
And
Kawati makes a
one
comeback.
more thing that really appealed to me was working for myself. Um,
Hmm.
I was really curious about that. And it also requires a lot of discipline. It's very easy to lose the motivation, and it's very easy to fall off the wagon because 4 weeks seem really short before your next set of bills come back to you, and you need to be like, okay, I not do enough business the previous month. um I think that, and that becomes a big part of small businesses because you don't have a runway of 2 years with you. You need to work really hard every single day. You don't get Saturdays and Sunday. I used to still try to take one day a week because physically I needed to kind of just rest my hand. Sometimes, most times, I used to be bandaged. I needed to rest my back. So things like that. But there have been also times where I've gone 3 days of continuous working. I've slept in the office space and I've just kind of like done it because there could have been like a spike. I usually, if I've done like a discount, or if I've done like a campaign around like one of these days, Diwali, that kind of hamper days, this thing, then you have to work extra. That's what I mean. That during your holidays, it might not be that you're waiting for Christmas to take that day off, but that might actually be like your most busy season because that's when people are looking to gift.
Yeah.
So that means that you don't get to take time off when the rest of your family and rest of your friends are all taking time off. And just a lot of things. These might be smaller in when you look at the bigger picture, but they all add up to making like a mighty ocean. So yeah, I think, yeah, it's just I was curious to see how I would be, working for myself and having a little bit of that flexibility.
No, but that's truly amazing, And like I said, and I love the way that you said you've only paused it. And I really do hope you're able to, make a comeback with Kawati and it's, bigger and better and, it's all that. And I think you will. I think it's just a matter of time. So, fingers crossed, more power to you.
Thank
Hoping
you.
to see Kavati back.
I am really uh shocked and surprised at the vote of confidence that I wish I had in myself, but people, really kind people like you and a couple of others seem to have in me. And I just need to figure out a lot of things before I get back into it. But honestly, I think what would change is having a really good co founder, having a really
Hmm.
good team in place, then yes, I can definitely think about it. But trying to kind of do it individually with just bare minimum help of, like, a couple of people, it doesn't cut it. You need to, and that's the thing, right? That's what I mean when I say weaknesses, is that I can do marketing, I can sell my brand, I can put up a website, I can decide, I can do a whole social campaign, I can bring in sales. That's something I kind of told myself, like, and when I started off, I said the first month I need to get 250 people. Okay, I got 450. So
Wow.
I was able to put it out there. I never had an issue of feeling like, oh, I can't talk about it, or oh, what do I talk about? I never had that problem. I always had a problem of, am I talking too much? Like, am I overdoing this? So I don't think so. I realized that was my strength. And also because I came from an advertising background, I had some sense of how social worked, and I worked in digital advertising. So I still understood how to build my brand online. Where I was struggling was the admin part of it, like the logistics bit of
Hmm.
it, and then the physical work that I told you about is also there, which was something that's manageable in the sense that if somebody learns it, they can do it. But in when you look at the broader thing of where you have to do five things together, then it becomes a lot. So I think planning that out, of course, you need to pay people like fair compensation, and then there's also your raw material. You have to think of profits also. You have to think of rent also. So anyway, overheads are crazy. So that amount of planning. So I would, if I could get somebody, a really good co-founder who is really good with back-end admin work, logistics, deliveries, all of that, then for me to do the other part will be a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So then let's just manifest that on the show. And if anyone's listening, and if you think you'd be a great co founder for Shashwati and for Kawati, please reach out to her. We could bring Kawati back, and that I think would be amazing. But
Thank
no,
you.
but I really do hope it comes back because I've never had a chance to try your products, but I've heard a lot about it. So I would love to see Kawati come back for sure. You have one future customer already ready here to like try your products.
Excited. Thank you.
I think, moving to a slightly more personal side of things, I know you're also an activist, and one of the campaigns you started on social media is, divorce is normal, kind of normalizing the conversation around that. And you've been very open and also have shown a certain amount of vulnerability, which I think has made people a lot more comfortable also around the conversation. And I think it's especially for women, right, to be more accepting of that conversation and to come out and speak about their own experiences and kind of support others who might be having the same experience, which I think is amazing to be able to kind of build a community like that, right, and create a safe space, which is not easy to do sometimes. But what I wanted to ask you is, why was it important for you to talk about it when you did start talking about it? And why is it still important for you to kind of, have that conversation?
This is one of my favorite things to answer, to be honest. I can never get bored of stressing on the importance of talking about something like this, is because I don't think I gave a lot of thought to a concept like divorce uh, in my life until I was actually faced with it. And while I was faced with it, I think there was a lot of invisible, like, just a curtain of stigma that I had myself, like internally, where I wasn't understanding where it was even coming from. Like, I was trying to make sense of it, and I was trying to understand why I'm feeling so awkward about getting a divorce, because and I don't know, it's so very, very kind of passively ingrained in a lot of us. we've probably heard comments, we've probably seen very bad portrayals of it in cinema, TV shows. I'm saying back then. Maybe now there are a couple of better examples that at least we can, say that okay, this makes sense. But I think while growing up, maybe 90s, 2000s, there was never a decent portrayal. And I think even in families, if, say, be it functions, be it anywhere, it was always seen as such a big shame, such a big taboo, that I think when I was faced with an impending divorce, I was just constantly like, oh my God, like, what are people, am I going to hear comments when I go to like family events? And is it going to be like an issue for me to like meet somebody else after this? Like, or do I just have to remain single all my life? Or, what is that life even going to be? I had like a million questions in my head. And then I realized it was giving me sleepless nights as to like this thing. And then I started questioning myself. I'm like, where is this stemming from? Because I don't
Hmm.
think I grew up in a house where I was told that divorce is shameful. I think from the time I was separated, my parents were extremely, extremely supportive. They just came, they picked me up and they said, just get out, just come back home. So I went back home. They never ever, there was just no question of like, oh, but are you sure? Do you want to do this? Or what will people say? That was never the thing. My safety and my happiness, my well being, my mental health was of uh, primary importance to my parents, which is why it was really confusing for me to like, where is this coming from? Where are these thoughts even coming from? And I think it took me a few months to actually realize that this is so societal. This is so, it's led by so many, like I said, passive exposures that we've had, which is somewhere absorbed in the brain, but we've never actively given it thought. When I was actively giving it thought is when I realized ki, oh my God, like this is really bad. How did I allow these thoughts? Like, why did I not question it before? But you don't. There are so many things like this we just silently absorb, and then it doesn't come out until you're actually, it comes up in priority. Towards the end of my divorce, also, I'd met a lot of people in court, a lot of people struggling to come to terms with the fact that a divorce was happening. But I think what really helped me was also talking to people online who shared their experiences with me. And then when I would see them living good lives, it would give me a sense of uh, happiness and hope more than anything
Yeah.
else, because there were a lot of well wishers and they'll all tell you ki it'll be fine, like don't worry, it's gonna be fine. But you don't believe it until you see someone who's lived through that experience, and then
Hmm.
that makes a world of difference, because then you're like, oh, okay, if she did it, I can also do it. That holds a lot more value and credibility. Of course, not at all saying that my well-wishers didn't mean it. They, of course, they meant it in the nicest way, and I took it also. I took it from them. It wasn't that I didn't rubbish it, but just the believability is more when someone's been through it. So I realized that for me, when that was happening itself, I realized that why is there not a more inclusive community space of people just telling each other that it's okay, that it's going to be okay. So it's actually an idea I had when I was in court itself, something that I really wanted to do. And these couple of people who had helped me out, I felt like if I can pass that on, if I can take it forward, that's the best thing I could do for somebody else. So it actually started off as saying, I just want to help at least two or three people. And I think I've been very grateful. I've been very, very humbled that, I've been able to reach people in the thousands right now, who have
Hmm.
been a part of different activities that I have done. Um, so I think it more or less snowballed very gradually and very organically. I never just sat out to be like, I'm going to build a campaign that's going to do the XYZ things. There was no brief. It was just to
Hmm.
say that I wanted to start talking about it. And I also wanted to speak about it openly, because I remember somebody had told my mom right after my divorce, and, they said, forget it, like it was a bad dream. Just quickly get her married, and, uh,
Oh.
we'll forget about it, and, just move on very quickly from this. And I said, why?
Mm.
How can I forget it like it's a bad dream? Firstly, if you've had a bad dream, you sort of remember it because it's scarring. So you don't forget bad dreams either. So it's a really, fantastically rubbish statement. So the more I think I'm also my father's daughter in that sense. The more somebody tells you not to do something, you really want to do it. You want to, I want to go and instigate that person just for fun. But that's what I wanted to do in this case of stigma, because I'm like, why are you asking me not to talk about it? Why are you then? That is bringing shame upon. Am I bringing shame upon you by talking about it? Then too bad, deal with it. I never faced that kind of stigma initially, at least not from the people my age, because I realized that as a generation, we have definitely evolved to understand that it's not it's not bad. And I think all of us, I mean everybody, we all know some couple around us who shouldn't be together but are together.
Yeah.
We've all started to be a lot more conscious of how relationships get toxic after a point of time. Relationships tend to fall, people tend to fall out of love, people tend to fall out of relationships, people want change, people want to do different things, people just evolve differently. The person you
Mm.
met when you are 20 and the person you become when you're 40 are entirely different. Sometimes even in 2 3 years you can't recognize who you were. So after that many years, who's to say that you're going to evolve together? And
Mm.
just because you took the decision to marry once, why do you need to stay married?
Mm.
If you don't want to, that is. More than anything, the level of abuse in Indian households is very high. Chalo, it's one thing to say, I don't want to be in a marriage or I'm bored or I want to get out. Great, do it. But as a society, India, we have a 1% divorce rate, which is nothing. Now it's probably climbing up a little because in the last 4 5 years, divorces have become little more common, little more in the open. Celebrity divorces are also coming out in public right now.
Yeah.
I think the perception is shifting very, very, very slowly, but it is shifting for sure.
Mm.
For me, that's why it's really important to have these conversations, because you're not going to beat stigma in silence. You
Yeah.
beat stigma, you have to make very loud noises. You have to be that person who will challenge it, and to challenge it, you have to do it by raising your voice, and not in a rude way, not in a way to put down somebody else, but in a way to actually say what is wrong. Why can I not live a normal life after getting divorced? Like, why are you making it so difficult for me?
Mm.
And there are so many, like I was saying, there are so many, and I'll particularly stress on women being in these kind of households where they don't have financial independence. So, it's very difficult to get out of marriages. So there are so many women who live their lives just in these households without the choice or without the agency to actually get out, or the support system. Parents will much rather leave their daughters in an abusive household than bring them back, because there is such huge shame associated with a woman coming back to the house. Even you know taking it one step ahead is, a divorced man getting married again is not seen as that much of a taboo as a divorced woman getting married again, because again, a woman who's not a virgin is seen as a much bigger liability than a man who's probably lost his virginity. So it's very nuanced. It's the more you think about it, the bigger this thing gets. So the same thing happened with me, that the more I started understanding layers and layers of stigma, and the more I started listening to more people, I realized that no, you can't keep quiet. You can't let this slip. I won't let it slip. And I realized I actually had very strong opinions, about it. And I thought, okay, like I said, it snowballed very organically. I started talking about topics at first.
Mm.
I realized, like, to run a support group also, you need a lot of bandwidth. You need that mental strength, because sitting and listening to that many stories of divorce is extremely, extremely difficult and heartbreaking. And I'm not professionally qualified to
Yeah.
handle that. I did not know. I needed therapy of my own to just shield myself. And I got very emotionally involved initially. Then it took a bit for me to understand detachment, understand how do I not put myself in everybody's story. Then it was kind of like easier to take it forward. But I think talking about it, having conversations about it, encouraging other people to talk about it, constantly ensuring that you break this awkwardness around this topic is for me very, very, very critical in shattering the stigma around it. So I think that's almost become like an aim for me to like, I will talk about divorce. Why are you getting awkward about it? Like, why are you feeling odd about it? Then the stigma is in you, not in me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much how I got into the whole thing.
Yeah, no, and more power to you for actually, bringing the conversation out in the open. And actually, I think giving, especially like you said, it affects, in this aspect, it affects women a lot more than men, because for men, it isn't as much of a taboo as it is for a lot of women, especially in an Indian context. So, really, more power to you and the community for really creating that safe space, and really like that inclusivity for people who are going through this, and saying, hey, we're here for you if you need to talk and you need like a sort of support system of some kind, which I think is needed. So definitely more power to you and the community you've built, for sure. I know you're also writing a book about divorce in a sort of Indian context with Penguin Random House. What can you tell us about that, and what is the experience till now been like, just working on it and writing, that book?
I think I'm still in a lot of disbelief that I'm going to have a book uh, in my name. It's just sometimes I just sit in shock at just stare at my screen. I'm like, oh my God, this is like real. Like it's actually going to happen. Um, which is honestly a little difficult to believe, to be honest. But I think it has given me some confidence that I can call myself a writer. Like I said before, I really struggle to think of myself as a writer because I was also constantly intimidated by a lot of people. I would think that, okay, everybody's better than me, kind of thing. I still, nobody is close to perfect, but I think I'm quite far from perfect. But I feel like I have a little more confidence to put a story out there. Like, I think I can
Mm,
do my share of emotional writing, my share of lifestyle writing. That I'm slowly starting to fit into like a put myself in a bucket of, okay, this is my comfort space. This is the space that I can actually emote in through words, etc. So the book kind of falls right into that category of giving me that leg up to do more in that. The process of writing is very, very hard. It is, writing a book is overwhelming. It's very difficult. It's extremely difficult because you constantly it's always in my mind that this is permanent. It's not like an online article I can go and edit. Once this
mm,
is printed, it's printed. So I'm very conscious of like every word that I'm writing. And I'm also always thinking of like effect and the reach it could have. So trying my best to put in as much research and other real experiences. So I think I spoke to around 140, 150 people. I did interviews. I just heard people's stories. I heard what they went through, how they managed it. I spoke to lawyers, I spoke to judges, I spoke to counselors, I spoke to therapists, I spoke to doctors. So it's a mix of trying to understand, and I hope that this all of this comes out in the book as well. We're still in the editing stages of it. Of course, it's taken a long time because I've been trying to juggle it with a job. I've been trying to juggle it with like a lot of other things. But I would say that it's a very empowering feeling to have such an opportunity. And big, big, big thanks to Shreya, who was the one who helped me build the proposal for this, and of course Penguin. I mean, what better publisher could I ask for? Book was never something I even dreamt of because I always felt it was a very far-fetched dream. But the fact that the dream came to me instead of me chasing that dream, I think it's a very, very big opportunity, and I'm truly very grateful, for that. So I've been trying to understand the process of book writing. Of course, as a first time author, you tend to make a lot of rookie mistakes. You tend to assume a lot of things which might actually like not be the right thing to assume. Thankfully, you have editors, you have people to put you back on track, you have the kind of help and support that you need, which is also fantastic because I think it's very, very, very necessary. But yeah, it's been very exciting. It's been equal parts exciting, equal parts difficult to kind of get that done. But I think that's just the process of it. I can't wait. I can't wait to see the cover. I can't wait to hold my first copy. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I think I'll be like weeping buckets when I actually see it come to life. But yeah, very exciting. So let's see how it
Yeah.
goes.
And I mean, that is the ultimate dream, right? For most writers to see a book and your name in print, right? On that paperback or hardcover. It's just amazing. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you, honestly. And I'm excited to read the book. And I think it's good that we're having more books also just about speaking about subjects especially around women, right? Be it with intimacy relationships. I think the last hard hitting one being Shrayana Bhattacharya's Desperately Seeking Shah Rukh, which I think really created waves, talking about Indian women in the context of relationships and intimacy, which I thought was amazing. So it's exciting to see more books like this coming out, really kind of delving into the psyche and trying to really understand what's going on in an Indian context in terms of women and relationships and what they want and what's going on and the like. So it's really amazing that you're also putting out a book like this, and I'm very excited to see that. But something I did want to ask also, since you are working on this, then at what point, like, how do you kind of go about, I guess, figuring out how much vulnerability is enough vulnerability, I guess, in a book? Because obviously this is nonfiction, and since you are interviewing people, so I'm assuming there are real life experiences that are going to be put here from different categories. So then how do you kind of be respectful to the person, obviously, whose experience you're sort of kind of putting in here, but at the same time even making it accessible and in a way sort of yeah, accessible to people who will be reading it, right? I mean, of course you have your editors there to guide you, but as a writer yourself, how do you kind of keep that essence for a book?
That's actually a really nice question, firstly, Sangeeta. See, I think vulnerability again becomes very subjective
Yeah.
to, what it would mean to different people. So the first thing that you need to keep in mind is that though I have spoken to real people, none of that is coming out under their name. So it's obviously everything's anonymous, everything's, we have to protect identity, we have to protect
Yeah.
um, whatever their story, etc. I think striking that balance is basically if I'm able to put the essence of the story out. So it's not necessary that every story makes it to the book, right? It's more to capture a particular, say, a common thread of emotion or a common experience that a lot of people went through at court, or a common thing that families put people through. So it's just trying to find those common lines of connect and relatability. And of course, vulnerability becomes a big part of it because there has to be a way where the reality is also brought out. The truth is that a divorce is very vulnerable. It's a very emotional, taxing decision that you make. And it's probably one of the most emotional decisions you will make, more than getting married to someone, because a divorce is not just between two people, it's two families. Things get complicated. There are probably children in the mix sometimes. There are pets, there are houses, there are assets, there is money. There are so many things that you need to kind of tie a lot of loose ends for. So I think vulnerability is just a part of that. So to me, I think I've gotten or probably grown a little into being okay with being vulnerable, but I have very strict boundaries. I
Hmm.
don't speak about a lot of things in my personal life because I believe what was in the past is in the past, and I want to look at it more from a futuristic lens, where I'm tackling more of society than saying, oh, this happened to me, that's really sad. No, that's not how I want to tackle it. So I think that for me, that is striking the balance in vulnerability, where I'm able to put myself out there without revealing too much about myself. So I might talk about one emotion that I felt. Like I might have said, okay, in court I felt a certain way, but I'm not talking about what was happening in court. So,
Yeah, yeah.
like, you're getting it. I think that's the difference with which you kind of have to see. And I've tried to follow the same thing in the book as well, whether it is mine or whether it is somebody else's. It's all anonymous. So, of course, making it anonymous makes a big difference, because then even if you have to reveal something that you might not otherwise under your own name or under somebody else's name, you can still do that. So I think it's just a matter of where the vulnerability is necessary and where it is probably not. So I think I also assess it based on the people I've spoken to. So there are some people who've been very, very, very strong, and some people who felt like they just couldn't handle it. So it's also a nice way for me to show the different levels of vulnerability that people have. For somebody, something might have been a cakewalk, but even that would have been very difficult for somebody else. And who am I to say what is easy and what is not? So I think the beautiful part of vulnerability is the level of subjectivity that it actually has, and the amount of space it gives for each person to emote and each person to have their own way of expressing it. So I think I go by, for the book at least, in terms of necessity. It shouldn't be overly dramatic, neither should it be underplayed. It has to be. So for me, the basis of the book is reality. So that's something I focused on in a very big way, because it has to give you a very realistic portrayal of what people go through. Sometimes you think it's a very small thing, but it's actually not. So, I've tried to highlight like those things. I'm hoping it comes out well in the book, and somebody reading it also gets the same impact that I have tried to put in it.
No, but I'm definitely excited to, read a copy once it's out for sure, to see what you've done with it and, the things you will be, portraying in the book. So I'm excited to read it for sure. But one of the reasons why I did ask this question was because I had Pragya Bhagat on earlier to record an episode, and she's written two memoirs. So I was asking her about, the whole conversation on vulnerability, because she kind of speaks about herself and her sense of belonging. And also, she speaks a little bit about mental health as well. And she kind of talks about her experiences with it. So, we were kind of chatting about, okay, how do you kind of decide that how much might be too much, and you don't want to kind of put that out there, but at the same time you want to make sure your readers are kind of understanding what you're trying to say, right? So even she was saying that, usually like her first few drafts is of course very raw. It's very, there might be too much, and then it's a process of really just self editing and seeing and getting like maybe another perspective and seeing, how to kind of make it more targeted, and like, okay, this is fine, this is what I'm okay with sharing, this is what I'm not okay with sharing. So I was just curious in this instance, since especially you're dealing with other people's experiences also, it's very different when you're talking about your own experience and someone else's. So it was just really nice to hear yours on that. But now we're kind of coming to the end of this interview, and we always end with these last two questions. So the first question is, what are your aspirations? It can be creative, personal, professional. What is something, or things you're looking forward to in the near or even distant future?
Uh, Finishing my book. Yeah, I'm really waiting for the editing part to be done and kind of just be done with this process. I think other than that, creative aspirations is, I want to do a lot more work that has impact. Like I said, I'm a big fan of seeing tangible change, seeing it actually impact people's lives in a very real way, in a very in a way that it actually, it's not just like a temporary change, but more like a change that really makes their life better. That's something I would love to do. If I could do it professionally, I would love to do that. I would love to explore more bits of lifestyle writing. I think just putting my thoughts out there, that's something that I think I would love to continue doing. I recently wrote for Vogue, and the article was well received, and that gives me the uh, opportunity to think of more such pitches and more such ideas. So, hopefully, I think this is a path I want to tread on, but of course, I need to figure out what will work, what will not work out for me. I have to pay bills, so it's like I'm stuck in that conundrum between like what do I do. But I think my aspirations will be to always create that tangible change, to always be able to help.
No, that's amazing. And I do look forward to seeing, what else you come out with. Of course, first the book and then everything else. Of course, I think Kavati is also there for sure, bringing it back.
So, like,
But
I
yeah,
think around September or October, I think I launched a Telegram support group um, for divorce, and right now we've crossed about, I think, 550 participants, active participants on that. So that's like ever growing. Every day I see new people joining, and I don't know, they're finding it from different sources. Um, so to me, that's also a very good space to be in, because then the onus of taking that conversation forward is not on me. So there are people who are messaging on that at 3 a.m., at like middle of the day, middle of this thing, and somebody is available to help out. Somebody is available to say, okay, you're not alone. We are all here. The sense of community is very, very, very strong in that one. In fact, there are a couple of single mothers or just wives who've given up their jobs for many, many years, who've come there to say, I need to start off again. What do I do? And there are people who've connected them to the HR departments in their offices, people who've been on the lookout, help them with jobs. So, I mean, what better tangible change than a single mother coming up and saying, I got a divorce, now I need to stand on my own 2 feet, or somebody saying I need money so I can get out of a marriage, and then there are 50 people coming to help you get that done. So, that's a space that I was able to set up, and I was able to enable this for others, and it passes on that confidence, it passes on that, what do you say, good vibes that people are able
yeah.
to benefit from it. So I think ultimately that makes a very big difference. So I mean, today it's a Telegram group. Tomorrow, like you said, I don't know what else. Hopefully, I always am able to innovate and come up with like new avenues of reaching out to more people. Something I would really like to do and I haven't done yet is this is all very urban India. If I could move a little into working in rural areas, understanding the kind of marriages that happen, then I don't think I have uh, that much of a visibility. I don't think I have had the
Hmm.
time to kind of go into that. But I would love to prioritize at some point in time in life where that's more real ground level work. A Telegram group or
Yeah.
an Instagram post isn't going to help that. That's not the reach. But yeah, aspirations, yes, that's definitely an aspiration.
And manifesting all that you want to do here. And hopefully, yeah, we'll see you do all this and more. Finally, what is a piece of advice or learning that you'd like to share with people? Again, this can be personal, professional, creative, basically something you've experienced and learned for yourself in life and wish that other people were more aware of.
Just finding that strength to put yourself out there without the worry or the weight of feeling judged, or worry that somebody might judge you. I think we live in a world where judgment is everywhere. I'm sure there are people who hate my campaign. I'm sure there are people who hate my personality online. And I'm such a small dot in this universe. There are so many people doing much bigger things, and criticism, good criticism, always welcome. But judgment, gossip, these things are always going to be there. So I really wish that more people would just, once you put yourself out there, you pick up you pick yourself up a little bit and you put yourself out there, you might receive some amount of good feedback which might help you hone your next piece of writing or art or dance or whatever it is, however you're willing to express yourself. I think it kind of adds to it. So I think you need to get that ball rolling somewhere. Like, you can't sit back and say, I'm too scared to put myself out there. Very valid fear, absolutely, yes. But if you can push yourself to actually work on it and be like, okay, what's the worst thing? Somebody is not going to like it. Fine, move on from it. Maybe try something else. Maybe, you give it a better shot. So, I really think that initial hurdle, if we can get past, then there is a lot of expressing that we can do. There is a lot we can share. I think each of us have some amount of creative energy inside all of us, some way that we have to have an outlet to let out these. And it's so different, it's so personalized for, every person. So some people want to put it out there, some people don't, but I'm mostly targeting that sect of people who want to but are too scared, because I think that that fear of judgment or that fear of someone not liking your work, I don't think should be the reason to. As long as you like your work and as long as you are convinced that this is your form of expression, I think you should go ahead and do it.
Yeah. And on that note of good vibes, we have now come to the end of this interview. Thank you so much for being here, Shaswati. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. This was a great conversation. I felt like, we went into a lot of depth of a lot of topics, which was just quite great. Wonderful set of questions. So, hats off to you for putting together such a good, tight show. And all the best for all your future podcasts. And I'll definitely listen to it. But for now, thank you so much for having me with you.
Thank you. So that was my conversation with Shaswati Siva. I really enjoyed that chat and learnt so much. Closing this episode with an excerpt from an article written and narrated by Shaswati. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you next week with a new guest and a new chronicle to share. Talk soon!
So I'm just going to read a little excerpt that I wrote for Vogue magazine. The article that I wrote about is that divorced people shouldn't be called divorcees, because divorcee is a very very heavy um, tag, and a lot of stigma is associated with the just the word divorcee. So it's something I really feel very strongly about, and I try to articulate it into thoughts. So this is just a small piece that I wrote. The word single is in the present tense, as is the term married. Why, even unmarried is in the present. But divorcee or divorcee is in the past. It's a decision that I, like so many others, have made under varying circumstances. Why am I expected to carry the baggage of a marriage that didn't work out all my life? Indian society works in excruciatingly difficult ways. The tag of a divorcee is a constant reminder that we are not ready to accept divorce as a respected choice. This nomenclature is a vexing means of ensuring I never forget that I made a choice which isn't socially lauded. Divorce is hard enough as it is, and once we are divorced, the pressure only keeps mounting. It takes months, sometimes even years, to move on from the emotional turbulence of a divorce. Women like me have so much that define us. We work hard, we make money, we take care of our families, we have flourishing careers. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to nothing when we are bound to a tag that bears little to no relevance that makes us who we are.